always been easy.
Good morning,
Always
everybody.
been.
Good morning, everybody.
How's Debbie this time?
We have a big crowd here, so make sure you But we appreciate you coming. My name is Judy Simoncic. I'm a partner with the firm for Chile TV Tirana. Our office is in Bloomingdale. My office has about 65 lawyers. We cover all areas of law and I specialize in land use and zoning. And I've had a lot of experience with condominium development in Long Island, residential, as well as commercial. And we have our panel today who we're very excited about. And we lost a few panelists, but we have some panelists today. So why don't we go down the row and introduce ourselves first, and then we'll get into some questions. And since we have such a small group, we welcome you to direct the conversation. If you have something in particular you want us to talk about, we'd be happy to accommodate you.
Hi, Libby. Stephen Dunn from Beechwood Organization. Beechwood Organization has been around in Long Island since the mid-1980s. We've been building single-family homes, condominiums, apartment buildings, retail, other stuff since that, but mostly homes. I think in the last 35 years we've built 7,000 homes in over 60 communities. Large majority of them being condominium communities. And that's everywhere from Nassau and Suffolk, all parts of Suffolk, the Hamptons, also includes Queens, Bronx, and occasionally Florida, Colorado, wherever we think we can maybe make a buck. So happy to be here.
My name is Valerie Van Cleef. I'm a real estate broker. I was in business for 33 years. I was a branch manager for 16 of those 33 years. So my perspective today will have more to do with what the buyer demographic is for any condos and any questions you might have about the market in general. I could probably speak to. I also have the privilege, although not representing them here today, working at the Long Island Housing Partnership, which is a nonprofit organization that works with developers like on both sides of me, who designate a certain percent of our housing as workforce housing. We provide technical assistance to the developers on the lottery, I get all those things. So I get a nice balanced perspective of the profit sector and the nonprofit sector when it comes to condominiums.
Anthony Bartone, Williger Bartone Properties. We are a joint venture between Bartone Properties and the Williger organization. Williger has the distinction of being the largest multifamily developer in history, having done over 260,000 units and over 1,200 buildings. Although I've been in business for 20 years, he's been in business for 40. Our joint venture together is on the younger side. We've partnered up in 2015. A couple projects already. Have exciting pipelines, pretty exciting. We are here today as a developer who's done both multifamily apartments and condominiums, to offer more of a counterpoint than a point as it goes to condominiums. We spoke with Eric at length about that. Wanted to have that. So contrary to what Joy Brown was saying up on the dais this morning, it's not all kumbaya. And I'm going to be the anti-kumbaya here today.
Maybe we should start with the anti-kumbaya. Your organization has really been predominantly developing apartments and housing, and recently I know our firm worked closely with you on a project in Bloomingdale that was condominium. So maybe we'll start with, what are the pros and cons of doing the condo versus apartment, and what difficulties did you encounter, and what were the positives about that project? Start with the positives. Start with the positives.
So I suspect that they put us in such a small room here because getting condominiums built commands only about this many people. As I said, I have done both condominium and multifamily apartment. My partner Ron opted out of our last Farmingdale project. He said when I brought it to him, he said, and we did it under the Bartone Properties. He said, Anthony, I've done 21 condominium projects. The reason I've done 21 is I will not do 22. He said, I did 21, I got sued on 19 of them, so I'm really not interested. Some of the challenges with condominium work, which a lot of people probably will know, but some you won't. Obviously, it's a whole different process. We have the joys of doing with the Attorney General's office, the pleasures of Nassau County and Suffolk County with the subdivision process. That could be a whole panel. Just on that. And then the absolutely starved. I'm trying to think of the most colorful adjective. Starved financing. Starved availability of financing. It's just not there. You just can't access it. So what winds up happening is we wind up going to alternative lenders. Which gets extraordinarily. Everybody only wants to put lenders from a lender point of view. We're slaves to lenders. Everybody wants to only put their money investors into multifamily apartments. Well, why? We have a starvation of supply here on Long Island with regards to that. We're at about 21% of our housing stock is multifamily rental, which should be around 35%. So we're way out of balance on supply and demand. So that's where the lenders want to put the money. So we can't access capital. We have the joys of navigating through the subdivision process, the Attorney General's process. But then here's a neat little nugget that I learned on our last project. We did the first ever Long Island Housing Partnership work. The first ever affordable for sale lottery in the Village of Farmingdale's history. So you hear a lot about how Long Island Housing Partnership work with developers, have workforce housing lotteries for specifically rentals. We did this one project. We wanted to have some diversity. So we had a for sale product. The first one in Farmingdale's history, which was workforce or affordable. You ready for this? This was a nice little nugget. So we were underwriting what would be affordable, making what we felt was reasonable assumptions. Then we went to Nassau County. And come to find out, even though these are units are affordable in perpetuity, they can never be anything other than affordable. Ever. The county assesses the taxes at market rate. So you have these affordable units that were assessed paying $13,000 a year in taxes. Such enormous downward pressure on the price that we had to sell these units for $180,000. They cost $330,000 to build. So I hear people come up to why don't we have any more affordable housing? How come we can't do more of that? That's example one of about 100. So when you speak about getting condominium built, again, I'm here to offer some why are developers going towards multifamily rental? These are just a number of reasons why. The demand is there. With our apartment buildings, we're typically 50% leased the day we open the door. Stabilize it a few months thereafter. So there's a myriad. Other than the ones I just mentioned, I have a little PowerPoint so I wouldn't forget any points. But everybody knows the SALT deduction loss. That's obviously putting pressure on pricing. Downward pressure. Just the sale aspect. For instance, on an apartment, $2,000 plus minus, you're in the door. With a house, you have to rally 60, 70, $80,000, whatever you need to rally to get in the door. It's a meaningful investment. And demographic audiences that we usually speak to here at the Smart Growth Summit are millennial audience. After they service their college debt and rally that down payment, they're just not. They're looking to be more mobile. They're not looking to rally all that capital to invest in a house and then have all the burdens that come with it. And then you talk about our empty nesters or those who are retiring. We find that although in the past they've gone more towards a for sale solution, that tide is turning. They're going, well, look, if I'm going to sell my house for $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, do I want to go back into something else that's $500,000, $600,000? Some do. But others are saying, well, my kids are down here or they're there, so I'm going to retain that money and again, $2,000 be in the door at the same style level. That's a quick high level 10,000 foot counterpoint why it's so difficult to build anything here. It's difficult to build anything here on Long Island. Even more so when you speak to condominium.
Segueing into the issues that the buyers face, they also have their own financial considerations because some of the government-insured loans, they require that 50% of the units be sold prior to qualify to get a loan. So how are you finding like that the buyers are dealing with that? The people that want to get into these condos, they have to wait for 50% of the units to be sold in order to get their loans. How are you assisting?
Well, that's part of the problem is that there isn't a real huge inventory of condos to choose or Suffolk. We did a little research for right now, but right now today there are 304 condo units available on the multiple listing service. Developers on the other side have their own sales offices and are building beautiful new developments, and so those don't tend to go on to the multiple listing service. But for the typical buyer that depends on a broker, then that's what's available in Nassau. And in Suffolk, they're 453. And a lot of them are priced out of the market because the prices tend to be high. And you have to not only have a mortgage, but you're paying taxes and you're paying a maintenance fee. I found the highest priced condo on MLS in Suffolk today is in Sag Harbor, and it's listed at $4.2 million.
That's a start.
Right. Interestingly, the taxes on that unit are $5,800, which is pardon me? Yeah. In Manorville, where there's some beautiful developments going up right now, that's where the least expensive condos can be found in Suffolk, and it's the older developments, and they start at around 40,000. You can find some up to about 120,000. But if these are going to be older units, they don't have the kind of amenities that a lot of today's condo buyers are looking for. You know, they want the gym, they want a bike rack, they want, outdoor grilling areas, they want pet areas, they want, am I right?
Yeah.
They want all of them. I'm in Nassau, you've got the Ritz-Carlton, which tops the market, pretty much in Manhasset. The highest price condo on the market in Nassau right now is on, at the Ritz-Carlton for $5.45 million, and they started 2.5 million. So a lot of typical buyers are priced out of the condo market unless they're willing to go further east and take less amenities. I feel that your typical condo buyer tends to be an over 55 buyer. So some condo communities are built specifically for the over 55 buyer. They're doing very well. It's not really the young people that are looking for the condos right now. But they do want to stay on Long Island, and they don't necessarily want to just rent because they might be a snowbird and they want to spend 6 months in Florida and 6 months up here and have somewhere to will their kids at the end of the day. So I think that there is a demand for more condos. I think that if we can get more inventory on the market, that there will be a buyer for them. As that inventory increases, I'm worried that it might have a little bit of a downward pressure on prices to make it more affordable for some people. And then we have the alternative I spoke about earlier, where a certain number of units are designated for workforce housing, so there's opportunities for people to do that and get into these nice communities. So it's a little bit of collaboration. I think that we need to keep the market moving along. Tell a joke when you're speaking. Tell them that the market has to move along like a laxative. But it's true. It's Garvey's Point. Garvey's Point is a new development. Also, $2.85 million is the lowest price there. There's a very old development in Westbury that the Holiday organization built in the 90s called the Tiffany, and it's an over 55 condo development. And I did a lot of business there for 2 years, and I watched. The last condo I sold there was 2 years ago, and it was a one-bedroom that went no amenities. They have a pool, they have a small gym. For $160. Now you can't get in there for for under 300 in 2 years because price point there is just not there. And West End is so centrally located, drove the market up there. So
I do want to apologize to everyone on behalf of Visual Long Island. I'm the assistant director. Because we had the addition of the houseway, we do have some AV going on, so I do apologize. So this room is actually the getting condominiums built, while the other room, if you're looking for transportation projects, it's actually the next room. So I do apologize in advance. We also are bringing in extra chairs. My apologies for the interruption and the inconvenience.
Clearly, there is definitely a market out there though for condos, and developers such as Beechwood are building these because there's a lot of benefits to them, and they're offering a lot to our communities. For example, the project you just did in Plainview is over 700 tons. I know they weren't all condo, but you have a wide range of different units for different markets. So if you want to talk about that, and a waiting, you guys are doing, and a waiting list.
There's definitely demand. The plus side of condominium development is the lifestyle of these buyers. So our buyers who primarily are over 55 or at least are empty nesters, they don't want to deal with maintaining a house anymore. They don't want to climb stairs. They don't want to deal with the landscapers. They don't want leaves. They don't want to shovel snow. And they want everything taken care of for them, but they still want to live in a home. And that's what we offer with condominium. The second thing we offer is a lifestyle that you really don't get with a single-family home. So in the communities that we build, we tend to build these really elaborate clubhouses. Plainview community, which is 750 homes, 750 condominiums, has a 30,000 square foot clubhouse that cost us $12 million to build. It has a ballroom, it has a gym, it has a movie theater, it has a sundry shops, a place to get sandwiches, soup, coffee, 2 bars. It has 2 bars. It has a pool table room. It has a mahjong room. It has everything that you can think of. Also 2 pools, 2 outdoor pools, and a hot tub. And for our buyers, that provides a lifestyle that they didn't have in their homes when they moved out. They use our clubhouses like a country club. They spend a lot of time meeting friends, joining clubs, playing cards, playing pool, watching games, and so it's a real draw. And for a lot of our buyers, it's a new lease on life. So our average purchaser is I think 65 years old in our Plainview community, but the ages really range from the low 50s to 90 years old. And for the older individuals who've been in houses for decades, perhaps without a spouse, the ability to have a clubhouse to walk over to and meet people who are like you and do things together is really a new lease on life. So they love it, and that's the draw. They are expensive. Our Plainview community homes start at 600,000. They go up to $1.6 million. Just talk about the product we offer. It's a couple different types of homes. So we build 3-story buildings with parking below grade, central elevator. There's 5 apartments per floor. They tend to range in size from 1,500 feet to 2,200 feet. 2 bedrooms, all 2 bedrooms. And then we build what we call villa product, which is a lower unit and an upper unit, so single floor living. The upper units have elevators. Those are for people who don't want to be in a building with 14 other homeowners. And then we have townhomes, basement, first floor, second. Really the most similar to single family living. Those tend to be the most expensive and the most square footage. Those are about 2,000 square feet. So we offer different types of homes for all of our different buyers. Buyers come from all over the place, mostly in our Plainview community, from other parts of Nassau County. So we have homeowners from Brooklyn, Queens, and Suffolk also. And in Plainview, they're moving for the lifestyle. I started to say prices are high. There's a reason prices are high, and that gets to what Anthony was saying. Developing condominiums, getting them approved, getting them built, dealing with the offering plan process, dealing with the different agencies, town, county, state level. It's expensive and it's time consuming. And if you want to make money, you cut pricing high. it's a bit of a battle because we can't price homes at whatever we want to price homes at. It's a function of what our buyers are willing to pay, and what they're willing to pay, what they're able to pay, is a function of what they can sell their single family homes for. And real estate taxes, Nassau County and Suffolk County for single family homes, I'm sure it's no news to everybody, they're really high. And so young families, young people, parents, graduating college, coming back to Long Island or the city, have a hard time moving into those single family homes because they can't afford the price. They can afford the price, but they can't afford the annual taxes. And it's a real drag on the real estate market for Long Island as a whole. Because if you look at the empty nesters moving out of their single-family homes to condo communities, and young families moving into those single-family homes as an ecosystem, the real estate taxes really are a drawback on a headwind against that entire ecosystem working the way similar to your vaccine.
How did you determine the units? You said you had mainly two bedrooms.
So what you don't want to do. One of the things you have to fight in the approval process in a lot of municipalities or the school districts, despite the fact that they have declining enrollments and they need school children, complain about the number of school children, even if it's 55 and over community. It doesn't make sense, but it's the world we live in and we can't fix it.
Unfortunately, that's the model.
So one way to mollify school districts in the approval process is to propose all 2-bedroom homes, because generally it's the 3-bedroom homes that are putting children in school districts. So it works out okay. Because our empty nesters tend not to need more than a second bedroom. Usually there's a basement, there's enough den, so there's enough space for them with just a 2-bedroom home.
So you found that the 2 bedrooms, people weren't looking for
most
3
part.
or 2 and
For the most
a half,
part.
or 2 and a half that you can convert to a 3.
For the most part, they're fine with 2 beds. We don't encounter that often. What I'll say on real estate taxes, though, and this is condominium ownership in Suffolk County. In Nassau, taxes on a condo are just as high as they would be for a single family home at the same price. In Suffolk County, they tax condominiums differently. So a $500,000 condo in Suffolk County would have taxes of about $5,000 a year, whereas a $500,000 home in Suffolk County, single family home, gets taxed about $15,000. The low taxes in Suffolk County condos is a way for empty nesters from all over Long Island and the boroughs who are on a budget to stay on Long Island and not be forced to move because they can't afford to pay real estate tax. So our biggest driver for sales in our Suffolk County condominiums, we've been building a 400-unit condo called Country Point Meadows in Suffolk County right now. Our biggest driver of sales is people who want to stay on Long Island, who want the lifestyle, but can't afford to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year in real estate taxes. So they look at Suffolk County when they may not have otherwise, and that allows them to stay along. Those are the benefits. It's a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass to build them. It's a pain in the ass to get them approved. I'd say half the communities we build, there's some threat of a lawsuit from the condominium afterwards because there's a cottage industry of I would call them ambulance chaser type attorneys who go around to different homeowners associations after the developer leaves and says, I give you money from the developer. Whether the community is happy with the developer or not, there tends to be enough people on the board who say, hey, let's go get money, big pockets. So it's definitely a drawback, but when you can get them approved, there's a lot of demand because we've got our biggest demographic on Long Island are empty nesters. That's not changing anytime soon. And they want to get out of their single family homes into something that's less famous.
Yeah, there you go.
So I guess in terms of the trends, do you see any downturn in the demand for condos?
Our experience, it's a bit a function of the overall real estate market. So there's no downturn in demand. I would tell you in our Plainview community, there are more people who want to buy homes there than we have homes to build. It's a question of what they can afford to pay, and what they can afford to pay is a function of what that's where
Come in, Colbert, come in.
so demand, no, ability to pay the price fluctuates and changes with the market. So a few years ago, the market was very strong. I've heard it soften a little bit. We haven't seen it play out in terms of slower absorption at Plainview, but if it continues to go down, actually, what you said was really interesting. We built a rental apartment building in Vanderbilt in Westbury. It's 195, really high-end apartment. Something like good amount of rental product on Long Island. There's not enough, but there is nothing really at the super luxury level. And building condominium communities, we built a community called Menlo Point next door to Vanderbilt in Westbury with 720 homes, 25,000 square foot clubhouses. And one of these highly amenitized communities that we described earlier, throughout the sales process in that community, we had people coming in to our sales center saying, I want to live here, can I rent? I want to live here, can I rent? We're building homes for rent. And that clued us in that this empty nester demographic might be different than empty nesters were 20 years ago. We want a house or a condo, get a house or a condo with their own backyard. People tend to be a little bit more mobile these days. They travel around. They're not as tied down to a house as they used to be. So that gave us a clue that there might be a market for empty nester rentals at luxury levels that didn't exist previously. And that's why we built the Vanderbilt. There's been tremendous demand. I think you're right when you say that there are empty nesters who don't necessarily want to own a home anymore. They're happy to rent as long as they can live in the type of up to the standards that they're accustomed to.
Do you find that the empty nesters are linked to wanting to come to your project, wanting to live there, but have to sell their home first, and they can't sell or that get home to get to where you
in a lot of cases, we do. We have buyers who feel comfortable that they will sell their home, so they'll sell a contract. We have a lot of people who come into our sales center, look around and say, I love this model, and I can pay the price, but I have to sell my house first. They tend to come back 3, 4, 6 months later, and they have a contract on their house. That changed in the 2008 recession. Prior to that, people were pretty comfortable that they'd be able to sell their houses. What you saw happen during the recession is buyers' attorneys would advise them not to sign a contract for a new home until they had a contract on their existing home. In some cases, until they had closed on their existing home. And even though the economy has really gotten better and the market's gotten better, that's sort of stuck with it. So buyers tend to be more cautious.
How are you dealing with them? Are you giving them a little flexibility where they can put a deposit down and then wait to close on those units until they do sell their house?
The market's strong enough that you don't have to do that. It's something we did during the recession, but we got out of that years ago, and we haven't had to go back to it yet. Hopefully we don't.
Let's say within timing in terms of, you have to have the condominium plan become effective in order to sell the units and timing, how do you time that and get the people into the units in a timely fashion once they sell their house? Do you have a difficulty with that or?
So the offering plan, for those of you who don't know, is basically a securities offering of New York State law. It's a book that tends to be about this thick, and it only gets thicker as you go through the life cycle of the project, and you have to do amendments to it. That book is supposed to say every single thing that you are going to build in your house and in your community. Bushes that are going to be, the type of bushes that should be in what location on your entire site. Not so hard, maybe for building a high-rise tower in Manhattan. Much tougher when you've got a 140-acre site that you have to commit before you start construction of the project exactly what you're going to do. Anybody who's in the construction industry here knows that you encounter field conditions and things have to change. And so the tough part about the offering plan is you're held to it by law, and it becomes a big part of your development. process. It's really a headache. It's something you don't have to deal with on the rental side. So we'll typically start the offering plan approval process about a year before we want to start sales. And that goes up to the Attorney General's office and the plans reviewers who review your offering plan. One of the things that's gotten more difficult lately is the AG's office has hired new reviewers. So what used to be a process that we used long, but we at least knew the steps in, has now become a lot more unsure. And we get new reviewers who ask crazy questions that may pertain to condominium buildings in Manhattan, but have nothing to do with a horizontal development in the suburbs. So it's just one more thing that we have to deal with. And we always have an eye on what we committed to in the offering plan as we're building, as we're selling, because the last thing you want to do is contradict what you said you do in your offering plan, because you'll get in a lot of trouble.
From the realtor's perspective, our agents are seeing a lot more people willing to wait for that development to be finished, and they'll sell their house and they'll rent for a year to wait for that development to be finished, which speaks to having more rentals for them to go into that they can wait for.
Question. We always hear talk about, say, Long Island's unaffordable. I sometimes argue is I think we just lack diversity of product. Disclosure, I was with counseling in the town of Ice for many years, and we've approved dozens and dozens of apartment projects, and it seems like developers never come forward. Condominiums, co-ops. And I'm talking about going back to the word diversity of product. Small condos like you have in the city, one bedrooms. When I first graduated college, I saved to buy my first co-op in Rockville Center, and from that roll out of it for the equity to buy a home. And our kids don't have starter places, and that is again buying 700 square feet. Most of these developments have all the garages and the pools and all that, which is not that opportunity. So again, say in downtown Bayshore or Patchogue, they've approved over dozens of developments, a couple of thousand units, all like 750 square feet, 900 square feet. No developers been coming forward to build the same unit, make the same unit, but make it condo, cooperative, so to build that equity, stability of the community. Because any good community in the long run, you do want to have maybe some stability, some ownership. Those are the people that become the Little League coaches, and hopefully they move on to buy a home, and vice versa. Grandma gets older, or people get divorced. 50% of the population. Where does daddy go? And that's one of the things that happens in the area. Every hamlet needs some ownership where dad can move down the block, because statistically, maybe the spouse gets the house, they can't afford as much, and where can they buy a place for 200,000, maybe 800 square feet?
I have a very specific answer to that. I've been fortunate enough to sit on a number of panels as new codes were being crafted. And what I share with the lawmakers is as follows. When you have certain codes, and ISUP's a great example, in your C residence area, a density cap of 12 units per acre. That's an arbitrary number, where does that come from? You can put other safeguards in place, with all these other things, height, and all these other things. When you pick an arbitrary number like 12, that's it. That's all you can do is that many units per acre. So when you talk about the economic tension that we have to overcome, specifically land prices are such, and taxes are such, and construction is such, but we're capped at a certain density level.
Well, we have a planned development district sitting in downtown Bayshore, where we have 40 units per acre.
Well, I understand, but the point I'm making with that is that, for instance, apartments, that's what I'm a little more versed in, so I won't speak on condo. The micro apartment is starting to become a rage in urban settings. We embrace it, but then when we analyze it, we go, all right, so that's a 350 square foot apartment where we're putting the Murphy beds and all this stuff. But again, I'm capped. Even if you use 40, use whatever number you choose. I'm capped, and we hit certain ceilings on what you can charge for these certain units. To me, one of the enemies affordability is density caps. Because how do we build things affordably? Well, it's a math equation, it's arithmetic. If we want to build it affordably, the land is valued at X, we have to, rather than 40 units, I'm picking an arbitrary number, now at 45, well now it might work. So density caps to me, I don't know if you tend to be one of the enemies.
Yeah, so if we give you a density bonus for ownership developments, that would be something that could help.
Sure.
I think it's also, I don't know the specifics, it depends on where in Iceland, but you're going to have to deal with school districts also. So I'm saying we.
It's not a problem, then put the same base short.
Yeah, if that's not a problem, then I think it's fine. I think that's fine. Land prices, what you have to pay for the land is going to factor into it.
But they're building apartments there. Just I'm saying no developers, just keep on calling it as apartments, not condos.
Just remember the following two, I'm sorry to interrupt, I just remember the following two that just came into my head. This is the second thing too. What are the two most expensive rooms in a house to build?
There's kitchens and bathrooms.
So if we build a two-bedroom unit or a three-bedroom unit, we have to do a bedroom and whatever. But in a studio or a micro, on a per square foot basis, when you look at the cost skews way upward on the construction cost for a micro unit, because we're still building the two most expensive rooms, but we have less square footage. So just another
I think there are some costs that are going to be fixed no matter whether you're building a one-bedroom or a two-bedroom or a three-bedroom home. So your site work, whatever it costs you to put gas, electric, water, sewer in the ground. Whether you're building a one-bedroom that you're going to sell for $350,000, or you're building a two-bedroom home that you're going to sell for $500,000, that cost is going to be fixed. It's going to be the same no matter what. And your soft costs, same thing. So let's say it costs you $150,000 a home in insurance, interest, payroll, etc. That's going to be fixed no matter what. And so is your land cost. The seller's going to want what the seller wants. They don't care if the town wants you to build one bedrooms, or if you want to build one bedrooms. They're going to price their land based on selling three-bedroom homes, because every seller thinks their land. So those are the challenges. But I think density goes a long way towards
solving that problem. So maybe density bonuses made also planned development districts and things like that. And I'll be very interested to see if I can help you.
How do you deal with the density in some county where you don't have sewers in most counties? You can increase the density caps, but the health department's not going to allow you to build to that maximum density anyway.
If you're building over, I forget exactly how many units per acre, you're going to have to build a sewer plant that's going to serve that development. So you're going to have to size the STP to whatever density you're building. That I think would be a fixed cost. Although if you go over, I think it's about 65 units, STPs become exponentially more expensive to build. So that's good.
And you also have setback issues with those too, and all other requirements that you have to meet. So you need bigger land to build.
Yeah.
If the approval process was cut in half, how much percentage-wise would that bring down the final sales that you would have to make? How much in the front end really affects your output at the end?
Here's the best answer, and I know that you just opened your coffee house. How comfortable would you be speculating 5 years out on what the market will? So, although it's a difficult answer to the question to quantify with an exact number, maybe Steve can. The bigger thing is that we're speculating out years and years and years, and recessionary events are going to occur. So the risk is so enormous. So the short answer, I think, is rather than quantifying it by saying, well, this percentage will be less on our soft costs or upfront money, I think it's more of a risk tolerance. If we could cut that time down, the risk is exponential. Because the market conditions today are known. We know what they are today. We're comfortable with what they'll be for the next 12 months. Beyond that, we're on rocky. Especially when you're speaking to condominiums and sales. Condominiums are even more sensitive sensitive to recessionary pressures than rental apartments.
As we all know, Long Island Index and Roush Foundation, they've been talking about this, speeding up the expedited approval process for years. And we've yet to see really anything take hold on Long Island. And yet we meet every year with some of the most influential people on Long Island, movers and shakers, both politically and in business. And we never come up with an actual product that's going to do it. So like, we go to the state and say, let's create a buy-in, that a community can buy into an expedited process. The state will back it with some funds, and it will move forward. You just need to like cut all of the other bureaucratic mess out and get to affordability, because we're never going to get to it.
Well, you said it best in your panel. You opened a coffee shop, and you had to get a license to play music. And you didn't mention, by the way, which I was shocked, was the fire marshal in the doors of that. You had the town. You had the village. You opened the coffee shop. And look at the layers you had to jump through. What do we have? I think 124 school districts, 406 governing jurisdictions, and they all want to have oversight. We have parallel review. Suffolk and Nassau County. It's like I don't believe that the answer comes from Albany. I believe it's more localized. I'm not smart enough to tell you what the answer is. But I will tell you that you're spot on. But that's one of the biggest hurdles.
Can I respond to that?
Yes.
I can't see where the speaker is or where his coffee shop. As the vice chair of the Nassau County Planning Commission, we're the easiest stop along the train. We've turned everything around in 30 days or less. We're committed to that. We're pro applicants. You give us the right paperwork, we'll get it done. As a 45-year first responder, I'm telling you, I'm personally embarrassed by the fire marshal. I've told 3 county executives, when you reverse the letters, they call FM in the trade. When you reverse those letters, that's more appropriate. They're the biggest impediment to business. I've told 3 county executives that, but they love them because they bring in revenue. And hopefully someday they'll wake up and nobody wants to take them on, I guess, Tuesday. And they're a very difficult bunch. They have a tough job to do and they don't have to be that difficult, but they make it.
You say it best. And the first thing you say when we appear before your committee, and I really appreciate this, I understand you're all pretty fatigued by now. And that's the point. By the time we get to you, fatigue has already set in.
That NIMBYism is a big problem on Long Island. It's unbelievable. And the worst I ever heard at a hearing we had on a project where the resident, he finally got booed out. He wanted us to put congestion pricing tolls on Central Avenue and Broadway in the 5 towns. I said, we're not the MTA and we're not the TBTA, we don't do tolls.
Maybe that's a segue to, in Nassau County, regulations require the condos like a subdivision. But in Nassau, you have to go through the process twice. You have to go through the preliminary subdivision, start all over again, and then start all over again with final. And that's why the process takes sometimes up to 2 years. So that's a segue. You need health department approvals, you need Department of Health, DPW, and you go in the department, you submit, you get comments back, you resubmit. So maybe a little bit about that.
I think Jeff's right. The planning commission is easy to work with.
They'll process it fast.
The 239F process in Nassau County is a black hole, and application has to circulate.
That's DPW.
But the crux of it is to really get into dealing with the bureaucracy, and there are, I think both county executives have run, especially Steve Malone, ran on the concept of reforming the health department, and he's done great things. It's gotten better, but where it gets difficult is really getting into the weeds with individuals who are standing behind engineering degrees and saying, well, I need to look at this and I need time to look at it. I think it's hard to call BS on individuals because they're entrenched bureaucracies, and they're not bad people. It's just the way they do things. And so I think it's tough to reform entrenched bureaucracies, and until we're able to do that, I don't see the process getting much better. You mentioned 2 years. I think it was an 8-year approval process for being and that's not to that doesn't even include, it does include the talk talked about it, the environmental impact statements, the secret review process that took up the bulk of that 7-year period. That was, I mentioned offering plans about this thing. It's a full environmental impact statement, something like this, and studies every possible eventuality that could occur from the development of a project. And it's costly, it's time consuming, and it certainly slows down the process. Yeah. But the easiest thing to do is build. When we get to the building department, things are okay. It's everything before.
For those in the room who don't know, and I know there's a lot of professionals here, but those who don't know about General Municipal Law 239F here in Nassau County, if we're just adjacent to a road, and we might not even have a curb cut on that road, it thrust us into a full review. They're looking at how much rainwater we're drinking and all this stuff, and everybody's getting invited to the apple. But the other joy beyond that ridiculous review is the fee. They charge 50 basis points of what the project cost is for that review. So do some quick math in your head of a 0.5% on $100 million project. Just for them to put their eyes on it.
But at least they don't charge you an expedited fee like the fire.
They know they're going to unexpedite. They charge an unexpedited fee.
An expedited fee.
They can't charge an expedite fee, they can't.
Anyone have any questions?
I just think first of all, it's really kind of interesting that 10 years ago, we thought that it might have been more difficult to build condominium housing versus multifamily rental housing on Long Island. You said that there's no way you can build multifamily rental housing on Long Island. Now that it's seen as something easier to do than condominiums is frankly pretty interesting. But I wanted to ask you guys, in terms of looking at it from more of the smart growth perspective, what are the opportunities of downtowns on Long Island to bring condominium housing and downtowns actually so saturated with multifamily as the primary building? And the opportunities, when I say the opportunities, maybe identify the downtowns and some of the issues that would make it very difficult to do.
I think about Hicksville. We look at Hicksville, we say, your first generation, it's going to be feasible to build rental housing there. The second generation, I think you have to establish an area before you can, and really before you can get people to buy there. Renting is not such a difficult decision. It's a year, it could be less if you want, and buying a house is a much bigger decision, and you got to make projects. So if you need to get condominium prices or maybe pencil, you're going to have to really have somebody go and deal with the frontier first and make it visible to somebody being willing to put their life savings into that area. It's not to say it's impossible. But I think most part you see it as multifamily first and then second generation.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I like to use a visual. I call it the housing ladder, but it's not a straight ladder. It's an A. We bring our millennials in, start them out as our renters. We establish their roots in the community, and then move on into ideally into condos or townhomes as they get married, potentially getting married later now. But then they go out and bedroom to the bedroom, but then they come back down the ladder. We have to have that diversity on both sides of the ladder. So I agree. I think the way and a good example is when you have something that could have some girth, we try to rally to the extent we can. Institutional money, an institutional has certain hurdles you have to hit to get over. So it comes back to density again. Where if you had a project with more girth, where it could be more diverse, several hundred units, then you could see a diversity. And I think your Plainview is pretty diverse. So I think that's a great example. But a lot of the time, that's a rare opportunity. So.
Freight rail compared to the average U.S. job. The biggest part out there is just because we're running a railroad, we might not be able to company that's selling food.
Don't give up, because there are opportunities out there no matter what you want. Not everybody wants a condo, by the way, not every over-65 person is sociable. So, it's a very social atmosphere, but the point being is, that I agree with Anthony that you have to have a variety of product to meet the needs of Long Islanders today, and keep the brain trust here, and keep the grandmothers and the grandpas like me here with our families, and we have to keep working on that. Obviously, there's work to do in the bureaucracies that these developers have to deal with. I wouldn't have to, that they have to go through all that they have to go through to get one of these projects up and running. But my experience has been, after all is said and done, that they do improve the overall economy on Long Island, and therefore each of us benefits from that. So, don't give up. That's my.
Yeah, I won't be anti-kumbaya. But I'm actually an optimistic person by nature, believe it. But what I will say is this: this is a smart growth community environment here. We're speaking on smart growth. What I will say to echo about what you were saying about the entitlement process. Most of the people in this room, unfortunately, believe in this and are staying home at 9 at night, having a glass of wine, watching TV. They're not coming down to town hall and supporting it. Unfortunately, the 10 or 20 voices that are heard at town hall for each of these hearings are very, very loud. And typically they're those who are in opposition. As a parting word, what I would like to encourage everybody to do is be accountable, whatever we want to see. Us as developers, we need the support of communities like this.
As somebody who runs one of those groups that comes out to support, a lot of times we hear from you 2 days before the hearing. What you're doing. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us what we're doing. Tell us what we're doing. We'll show up. But the agendas on town hall are written in such an opaque fashion. Half the time you can't even tell what involves. Huntington Township housing growers.
I will say that, and I'm going to be selfish for a minute speaking on my organization. My colleague Matthews here, who spearheads this for me. I agree with you. We've tried internally to do it better and smarter. So you may or may not have heard, over the last year I've been kind of the king of the contentious application. We had one in Lynbrook that got politicized and was very contentious. And we were able to turn that around. And the way we did is we abandoned that application, came back and had a community open house, a bus tour to some of our facilities. Did all this before we made the application. What do you like? What do you think is a reasonable tolerance for height? What do you like for an architecture style? You guys were there, right? You guys were there from H2M. And I think it was so wildly successful. For the first time at a public hearing, I was applauded. A bit odd. It was weird. You were there, Jeff. You were there, Jeff. You cheered too. So I agree with you. And I think we're trying to do it better.
It makes a big difference. You know, most of the time, the reason you provoke these folks to come up is because they don't hear about it until right before. You know, we've done a lot of work with Renaissance in their project in they have a meeting every friggin' month. 2 months ago. I've never heard about this project before, and I live 2 houses behind. What's that big building going on? You wonder where they are. And, we try to do this. But it's the surprise factor I think that gets you as much as anything else. The fact that people don't know what you're doing, and then it looks like you're all trying to sneak this shit. And that's what really gets the people up.
Well, again, selfishly, I think that we are trying to reinvent that process. I think our Lynbrook story was a success story, I would think.
They do tremendous outreach even before you file an application.
It's akin to running a political campaign. So, like you guys said, from the moment you put an application in, or even before you put an application in, our MO now is to reach out to the civic association, to the sports groups, to the church, temple, any stakeholders in the community, and try to get their input, like you described, what they want to see done there, as much as you can, because I think if the stakeholders feel like they've had a hand in shaping the proposal, they're more likely to support it. I think you're dead on. I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to public hearings and somebody gets up and said, I didn't know about this, and they're angry because they do feel like something's trying to be voiced out. So you really have to run a boots on the ground, knocking on doors, political campaign to try to energize the silent majority, make it clear to the politicians who are making the decisions that there is actually support for the project. In our Plainview project, we got 5,000 signatures from Plainview residents, Oyster Bay residents, in support of the project, and put them on the town supervisor's desk because we knew that the civic association was going to come out strongly against it. We also knew the majority of the community wanted the condominiums built because those people are the people who want to move out of their houses and have an easier lifestyle. And if I would leave everybody with one thing to take away, it would be to go to our website and please find a community.
One thing that came out earlier during the process when we had the high school students there, we was talking about different developments and everything, and then one said, well, I live in Wyandanch and Amityville, and there's no development taking place there. I know Wyandanch Rising has been the largest TOD for 5 years. And I was saying to Mitch, and Mitch said, how can you communicate with the younger? Everything is here now. Everything is here now. It's not they don't watch TV. If they don't watch TV, everything's
Send him a text message. Send him a text. That's all I know. That's all I know.
So Michael was in the leadership panel earlier, and there were so many young people there. I think we're going to have to start engaging at the high school level to get those young people in there, like you say. What do we need? What do you want in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? I think we're going to have to figure out how we can do that. Either that's junior community outreach or whatever we want to do. But I think we're really going to have to engage those kids and get those out to the town board here, as well.
We have a few young folks in the room, so I put this question back to them as to if you have any ideas on how developers can get the message of new projects or new initiatives that are going out. What would be successful?
I'm from Amityville. I'm not from Wyandanch. Those other students from Amityville. We don't have affordable apartments or housing at anything. In some parts we'll be like, okay, this area, well, like North Amityville, it's cheap, but it's not in a good neighborhood. It's not built in. And then in this area, like Village, it'll be expensive and it's hard to get in there. I feel like, and they recently just built an apartment complex. I think I was talking about this earlier. They recently built Grapevine and it's from 2,000 to 3,000 people. Nobody can go. We really have to like find an area for where there can be people like us, even younger folk, and even older people, everybody in the village, where we can have something to buy that's affordable.
In terms of just, I guess, information of local community happening, would it be a social media platform, on Instagram?
I feel like outreach, and also what he was saying about going to schools, because when we go to school, we're going to school. I feel like we all take that in, and then when we apply it makes sense. I'm here because of my public policy. I didn't have any idea what was going on before that until I actually got into it. So I feel like when you get into the schools and the community through social media or however it is, we all can appreciate it.
No, I think you hit on something. It's good to get the engagement of younger people. If they are not thinking about where they need to live, high schoolers who will go to college, it's going to be years before they think about where they need to live or where they're going to come back. I would imagine it might be tough. I think I think you're onto something, whether it's high schoolers or it's college students or it's young residents in the community who are frustrated because they're still living in their parents' basements. Or parents. The parents turn out. I know that the Southampton Village Mayor, he's in his mid-30s, and he won this election. It's a real surprise because he went to the local high school and got high schoolers interested, and they turned out to vote there. So there's something there.
My name is Matthew Ambrosio. I work with Anthony Barstow and I support his projects. And as you mentioned, I spearhead the community outreach. And I've been reaching out to our youth. And I also have a double advantage. I'm actually an adjunct professor at Suffolk County Community College. So I'm in front of these kids all year long. They're ready to listen. And one of the ways I get my message out in general, is writing. So I've been a columnist for about a decade. And I recently got the opportunity to meet with the Long Island Coalition, which is the genesis of Long Island Ink Pipe, founded by Michael Watt. What came out of that meeting is the young people are the future. You guys have a ball in your hand. You need to get to these meetings. The way to get anything done is education. That is the key. When you want to sell something, inspire somebody, you have to educate. I've actually taken the initiative to begin a series of expert articles that are going to be published in the Reporter, which is a publication that is printed and put out by the Industrial Association of Force here on Long Island. And it's a how-to. Which is a format that's millennials, Generation Z, and it's basically a how-to of how you participate in community, town, village meetings to become voice. The point is to be heard. You have to be there. You have to be at these meetings because if you're not there, you're not being heard. If you are there, are being heard, and it's not always the people who should be leading the way. You guys should have the voice. So check it out. I will absolutely share it with people here who have run vision so they can share it with you. It will be at least 5 or 6 tips on how you can participate in these meetings that discusses what you should do before you attend there, when you're there, learn about the developers, learn about the codes before you go, learn about the project, see what's going on, and most importantly, understand why people are not into these projects, why they don't support them. You'll find some surprises. That should be a motivation for you guys to keep going and keep getting. So get to these meetings and be heard.
I know there's a condominium panel, but I have a point to get across or something I want to say about rental housing, affordable rental housing. The state, Senate, and the governor signed it in June, passed law, rent regulation law. That sounds great, but is going to have the opposite effect of what's intended, in that it's going to discourage the development of more rental housing, affordable rental housing. Basically, the law says it makes it harder to evict people, lowers the fees you can charge for a rental application. So I'll give you an example. It costs us $75 every time we get a rental application in to run a background check. We're not allowed to charge more than $25 an application, so we lose $50 every time somebody needs an application. You can't charge late fees on rent. So if a renter is late, we used to be able to charge 5%. And a lot of our renters, it's not a money issue. Calling our manager, calling up that renter and saying, hey, you're 10 days late, but if you pay today, I'll waive the 5% late charge. That used to get people to pay. Now we're not allowed to charge more than $50. So the number of people in our rental projects who are late on rent has gone up a lot. But the biggest impacts of the law is that for rent stabilized or rent control housing, it basically makes it so that you cannot get your investment back if you put money in to renovate a kitchen, repair a hole in drywall, renovate a bathroom, and we're in the development business. We're in the development business. We care about Long Island. We care about the boroughs. We work in the boroughs. But we're in business to make money for profit. We're not a not-for-profit. And we work hard. We sign guarantees. Butts on the line. Every time we build a project. You don't do that. And you don't do that to not make money, or to potentially, or if there's a good risk that you lose money. And the new law makes it so that you're guaranteed to lose money on money that you invest in rent stabilized and rent controlled projects. So I think it's very quickly going to have the opposite of its intended effect. That's a law that was passed down by Albany. I think they're going in the wrong direction, but it's important because current government at state level, I think, doesn't understand the impact of the policies they're passing. They're very popular publicly because they sound great, but they're not very well thought out. I'll give you a real world example. We have a development in the Rockaways in Queens. It's 2,300 homes. We built 1,500 so far. We just built a market rate rental apartment building. We wanted to build a rent stabilized apartment building. Then this law passed, and we decided we were going to build affordable condos. Which is fine. It's affordable housing, but there's affordable for sale housing. I think has a little bit less of a good impact on the community than affordable rental housing. But we'd be crazy to commit to losing money. And I think other developers are making the same calculation that we are. So it's just a point I wanted to make on affordable housing. I think it's incumbent on all of us as stakeholders in Long Island and in the New York City area to talk to our state senators and explain that what they are doing, while it may be popular and it may win short-term political points, is having a real negative impact on